So I just wanted to add a few comments regarding yesterday's video, which outlines Trump's difficult September. And it's to say that next week is particularly important because that Mars that I'm talking about in the video enters into a really complicated zone, that Access Hollywood T-square of his. The reason I call it that is because of events back in October of 2016. But the main point is that October 2016 is an actual event. Something happens that is challenging. And it turns out the Mars in his chart is a very important planet. It rises right next to the ascendant and is connected to his ninth sign in the chart, which means things like the law, for sure. And so then, yes, something like that can show up. But the ninth is also immigration. Mars is a belligerent, bellicose, combative, angry planet. And you notice what he's been doing. He's been ramping it up, doubling down, tripling down on the dog story and, eating cats and dogs and all of that, which is intended to scare people, to be fearful of immigrants. And yet, by all accounts, it doesn't seem to be true, and so could possibly blow up on him in a pretty major way. Now, for example, one way this could manifest is, if you think logically about this, the debate that happened this past Tuesday was, again, by all accounts, a really negative event for him. He says that he won, but he knows that he lost, and in the real universe of real facts, he lost probably 65 to 35. That would be on the low end probably, but he lost absolutely. He knows that he lost. And then there are consequences to this. We saw in the case of Biden that the debate was very impactful, but it took a little while to show up, as it always does, meaning when they then do polls, they started to reflect a really dire situation. For Biden, this is what then mobilized the people in Congress and people in the House and so on, put pressure on Biden. Well, now we're in the same situation with Trump. And even though some of the really early polls suggest that nothing's changed, that may not be true at all. And we may see this sometime next week, and I'm guessing on the early side, because by Monday, Tuesday at the latest, the Mars is in there. Plus, we have a full moon across Virgo Pisces in a place that is not helpful to this guy, because Virgo Pisces makes a square to his Sun-Moon opposition, or rather the Virgo Pisces degrees where the moon is happening. So this could be a key moment and deliver some kind of death blow or near death blow. And it's one thing to say he is using the Mars in this way to agitate against immigrants. That's the behavior the person adopts within their own chart to express it as it's happening. But then there's the outer event and events that are the consequence of prior actions. And, calling it the Access Hollywood T, where this Mars is going through, that comes from just observing that back in October of 2016, something potentially very damaging. It didn't turn out to be all that damaging to that election, but it's clearly an event that he didn't want. Situation now is very different. He is, by all accounts, at best close to Kamala, but almost certainly a little behind. And if it turns out that the debate did indeed lead to poll numbers that clearly favor her, an upward bump, then he's really going to range. He's really going to be super upset. And because he's a one-trick pony, he'll probably, instead of doubling and tripling down, he'll quadruple down on the same strategy. I don't think this guy can do anything new. He only knows one way. It's the hateful rhetoric. It's the idea of being elected on, white supremacy and misogyny. This guy, from my sense of him, he feels that his one path is to agitate enough that he'll get the votes of people that are scared about immigrants, that are scared about the things he says, and thereby propel him to victory. He's not doing it by trying to get people in the middle to vote. He doesn't know how to do that. The only way is to increase the numbers in his base. And the reason he thinks this way, by the way, is because in 2020, he did increase his numbers. This was one of the big downers we all experienced because we thought, how can this guy get 74 million votes, when he had 63 million before? So more than 10 million people voted for him in 2020 that hadn't voted in 2016, which is really quite crazy. So in his mind, he's thinking, there are people there that I can agitate, and have them vote for me. Of course, it's also true that, yes, he did that, but the Democrats also increased their tally. And this is what always happens in elections. In the US, it's very difficult when you increase the energy, both sides increase. But he's just ignoring that or hoping that all those people won't show up for Kamala. He's mistaken about that. In my opinion, he's totally mistaken. But that's his play, right? That's what you would expect him to do if things get really dire. In any case, the point being, keep an eye on this because early next week, the Mars locks in and the full moon happens. Those are high energy points for everyone. Full moons are like that. And they do not align well with his chart. And so therefore, that's the likely result that we will be seeing.